Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth911's Sustainability in Your Ear. This is an innovator interview with the founders of Helmm. That's Helmm, and they're at helmm.com. It's a new sustainable antiperspirant and deodorant company for men. And I have to say that I just received my first order today, and it is a holder made of steel and fine leather, which I will ask the folks to explain, but I have used it and I'm satisfied, and it is designed to reduce plastic consumption by 60%. So welcome to the show, Zach Groffsky and Taylor Lane, the co-founders of Helmm. How are you today?
Hey, Mitch. We're doing well. We're excited to be here. Thank you very much for having us on, and excited to talk about both Helmm and the personal care industry as a whole. We're obviously big fans of what you guys are up to, and big fans of the messages you guys are sharing. So thanks again for having us, and happy to be here.
Well, first, can you describe the Helmm product? Because I think I probably just mangled it, as I was describing it. It's a kind of a razor and razor blades business model that you have, where you're selling a holder for the antiperspirant or deodorant, and then refills. So tell us about what you made this from and how it's more sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, for the most easily digestible comparison, the razor business model comparison is a good one. You receive a starter kit package as a one-time purchase, and then your delivered refills. Obviously, in our case, they're full of deodorant and not steel blades, but your delivered refills to your door. And I'll go into that in a little bit more in a second. I think, where we sort of reject the standard razor business model comparison is we really wanted to take a standardized product, and rather than sort of just changing the branding and delivering something that you're used to, we really wanted to innovate on a product that really hasn't been changed in over 50 years. So, what you were using today as a new customer, and what Helmm is the first refillable deodorant product available to the market. So the way it works is you receive our patented Helmm vessel on a one-time basis. As you mentioned, it is made of premium, durable materials designed to last and guaranteed for life. And then on a subscription basis,
it is very elegant.
I'm sorry?
It is very elegant. It is something that when you see it in a bathroom, you'll really pay attention to it. So kudos to the designers.
Well, thank you. And that was really our goal, to offer both a functional and a luxurious product. Obviously, something that improved upon the single-use plastic containers that we're all used to in your local pharmacy and drugstore. We realized, though, that in order to really get people to sort of change their purchasing behavior, we did have to make it nicer as well. So again, we're the first refillable deodorant product. You are delivered deodorant refills directly to your door, and we're very proud and very happy to share, as you mentioned, that each of our refills, while it contains the same amount of products you're used to in a normal pharmacy stick, each refill actually reduces plastic waste by 61% on a unit basis. And on top of that, they're actually recyclable as well. So, trying to do our part.
Containers, yes. Yeah.
That's correct.
And they're made of HDPE and other plastics that are very easily recycled. So that's also a nice design decision. You guys have certainly made it as easy as possible for somebody to be sustainable while staying fresh.
Thank you. And we can actually credit a lot of that with some visits to local recycling municipality plants in the area. We spent a lot of time at a place called Sims in Brooklyn, where we sort of received our crash course on recycling, the types of plastics that can be recycled, the amount of plastic that actually ends up in recycling. And, the team over there, we really credit with a lot of our knowledge, which obviously influenced our design and manufacturing process as well.
There are aisles full of antiperspirant deodorant choices out there. What inspired you to do this in the first place?
So what really happened for us is, Zach and I have been friends since we were at Duke University together. We graduated, we came up to New York, we kind of, worked in the financial sector for a little while, and then always had this itch to really create our own company. Remember, it was one day we were walking around in sort of Midtown. It was very hot outside. We went into a store. It was a CVS, I believe, and there was, there is that just sort of unscalable wall of deodorant. They all look the same. They all smell the same. They're all made of the same unrecyclable plastics. And we said sort of this, there's something that can be better. There's a better solution here. And it wasn't really our first time thinking about that. To be quite honest about it, it was, the idea originally came from when we had spent some time in Florence, Italy. Over there, they actually have some of the oldest operational fragrance houses in the world. Mm-hmm. So these are, the fragrance companies that used to develop perfumes and colognes for popes and kings and queens. And a really good friend of ours over there went in one day and came back about 45 minutes later with his own custom fragrance. And for us, fragrance is something that is as personable and says as much about you as your clothing and how you cut your hair. And yet people don't really have that much choice in terms of personalizing it towards them and making it a little bit nicer. And that was sort of the genesis of our interest in at least the fragrance space and deodorant in particular. And then when we saw this, this unscalable wall of deodorants everyone sees in drugstores, it all kind of clicked together. That was around the same time that, the beginnings of the plastic straw trend were sort of coming into the news, and there was a lot more focus on eco-friendliness in terms of product design and packaging. And so these sort of multitude of factors came together and really allowed us to form Helmm into what it is today.
Tell us what this is, the materials or the antiperspirant is made from, because that's the other area where you spend a lot of time, not just on the fragrance, but there's no aluminum. You're not using any toxic chemicals whatsoever. How did you design the formula?
So I think it's easiest to look at what's not in our formula and compare it to a lot of the formulas out there. Obviously, as part of this design process, there's both the container and the refillable mechanism itself. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about a deodorant product, if it doesn't work for the user, it doesn't matter how nice it looks or how good it smells. Functionality really comes first. So we spent, almost a year developing a proprietary formula. We actually worked with some of the chemists who developed the proactive formula. And we delivered to them a mandate of essentially 12 different ingredients that we did not want to include in our formulas. We were, of course, at first met with staunch resistance and a lot of comments about how we'll never be able to develop a formula like this. But
so you got the "Son, not the way the industry works" lecture?
Yeah, well, more like a son, you can save money if you include all these ingredients. But, for us, it was really important to not include ingredients just because that's the way things have always been done. So we really wanted to, when Taylor was just talking about the fragrance side of things and talking about our design as well, we really wanted to upgrade everything from functionality to the delivery mechanism to how you apply it to the fragrance to the formula as well. So I'm sure you've heard or are familiar with, there's obviously some media attention about how certain ingredients affect our bodies. But there's actually, equally as much of a problem with some of the ingredients used in the cosmetic industry and how they infect the environment as well. So ingredients like triclosan, that's actually considered a pesticide by the FDA. All these different ingredients, for a multitude of reasons, we wanted to make sure we did not include phthalates or parabens or triclosan or talc or sulfate. So there's definitely a long process, but we're extremely happy to, have a formula that is not only void of a lot of these harmful ingredients, but actually works as well.
Now, tell us, you mentioned your experience with scents in Venice. You've got 4 different scents now: Coastline, Trailblazer, Night Market, and Hudson. How did those scents come about, and does the fragrance add any complexity to the sustainability of the product?
So typically, I would say the answer is yes, but obviously, with the way we've approached things, we wanted to have a similar approach to our fragrances as we did our formula. So we actually found someone who has been a great friend and a great partner and a great mentor to us. Her name is Cecile Hua, and she's actually the vice president of the American Perfumer Society. She's a world-renowned French perfumer who works with a lot of very large brands, definitely above our pay grade. But when we approached her with our idea of a more sustainable, more natural deodorant product, she was on board from day one and still works with us to this day. So Cecile, her fragrance mixing skills are actually a UNESCO protected process, which is kind of wild. And with that, it's a very deliberate and unique form of fragrance development and mixing that originated in the south of France. That takes a much more natural, ingredient-based approach to fragrance development, and that's why you see, aspects of nature in both our fragrance names as well as the fragrance characteristics itself. For each and every fragrance, we have a list of the key ingredients and the different benefits that those ingredients provide. So, for example, if you think of which one are you using, Mitch? Might I ask?
Trailblazer.
So, Trailblazer, for example, normally the fragrance industry is a pretty opaque industry. You don't really know what goes into your fragrance, and that's actually reflected in ingredients lists as well. You'll notice that when ingredients in cosmetic industry products are listed, it simply says fragrance. It doesn't break it down into its specific notes or accords. We like to do that. We like to tell the consumer, the user, what they're actually putting on their body. So, Trailblazer, for example, one of its main ingredients is an Italian bergamot essential oil. And, with that, bergamot oil is known to inhibit the growth of certain germs and it has a disinfectant property. So we like to share sort of the more natural side of our fragrances. And that's as important to us as what they actually smell like.
Now, let's talk a little about the subscription program, because I think this is all, and by the way, you also built a very nicely designed website where I have already set up my account and I can opt for different frequencies of delivery of refills or make ad hoc orders when I need to. So it's a relationship that you're going to build with the customer. Now, as you think about how that relationship is going to expand, what else do you plan for Helmm as a set of services or products that could augment my sustainable lifestyle?
Sure. I think the most important thing is just to ground it sort of in what Helmm's doing now is you're exactly right. We allow our customers to go on a subscription schedule. And there's a couple of benefits to that. There's an obvious one that you don't really have to worry about it coming or going out to the store and having to buy it when you run out. There's sometimes when, Zach and I were younger where we would, be running to work and we'd be like, oh, we're out of deodorant. What do we do? And kind of have two choices, either to run to the store and be late for work, or, you're going to smell a little bit for the rest of the day. So there was a practical concern The secondary, benefit to it is that it really allows us to bundle things and reduce the amount of packaging, shipping, and waste that goes along with these sort of products that are shipped from online. That's something we're actively working on now. We want to actually end up closing the loop on our product life cycles so that we have the ability to reclaim some of it from our customers, so we can better control the recycling process. We want to be able to bundle more effectively, so we can actually reduce the cardboard usage and the CO2 equivalent of our shipping. So there's a lot of that in the works. In terms of, I guess, our customers, it's very important to us to allow the customers to help guide where Helmm is going.
Okay.
First and foremost, we're a premium brand, but we have some absolutely unbelievably avid and evangelical customers that love us and love our product. And, we're right now working, I think, on 6 or 7 different new product lines, and about 70% of those have been informed by or even started by customer conversations. So it's very important to us to have that sort of full circle conversation between, what we're doing as a brand and a company, from a product development side, from an eco-friendliness side, from a marketing side, and have that conversation with our customers to see what, they want to see what they want to actually purchase. And I think a really, big component of that, we predominantly sell to men. Men, unlike women, unfortunately, in this space, aren't as active in conversations. They don't comment on social media posts as much. They don't talk about, their stuff on, what they're feeling or what they think about a product as much on forums. But what they really do want to know is knowledge, So guys love knowing. They love being able to say, here's a fact that I learned the other day. And really, there's a huge education gap right now between consumers and sort of the manufacturing side of the personal care industry. And this kind of harkens back a little bit to what we were talking about before about transparency. And we want to not only be transparent about how we make things, but we want to educate our customers as to the effects of our products on the environment, the effects of our products on their personal health, and sort of even beyond Helmm. We want to educate them on the rest of the industry. So it's actually, Zach and I were actually just at a luxury package conference the other day, sort of looking at all these different manufacturers from around the world who make the tubes and the different containers that most companies use to put their lotions in. And what was remarkable to us is when we walked away, is, the amount of just unrecycled, unsustainable plastic that is in this industry is immense. But as a consumer, since you're only buying it every 6, 7, 8 weeks, it doesn't really hit home to you. So that's what we're really trying to work on now, is bridging that education gap and really bringing some knowledge to our customers.
And what you're describing is something that has been talked about in business for 20 or 30 years, which is the idea of a long-term relationship with the customer in which they co-design what they're going to buy in the future. And with the subscription model, in fact, I did a separate podcast on another network about the relationship between sustainability and privacy. Now, these days, if a man wants to smell good, be sustainable in doing so, and reduce their plastic use, this is the kind of thing where they can come to you, find out with full information what they're buying into, and even, as you've already pointed out, participate in coming up with what's next if they like what they experience. And it's all based on this idea of subscription model. So do you see this as kind of where everybody should be going in the future? Because you would not think antiperspirant subscription, but once you start doing it, it makes obvious sense.
I think, first of all, everything will end up heading towards the subscription model. I mean, even just in the past couple of years, we've seen subscriptions pop up from everything from, cat food and dog food to subscriptions for hot sauce and tons of different interests. And so consumers are really grabbing onto this. It's the convenience factor that really gets to them. But what I think is a great opportunity that the subscription model allows is, changing form factors and changing consumption habits. So what I mean by that is, the idea was sort of thrown out probably about 2 decades ago. Why don't we start delivering things like soap, dish soap, in pouches, and we'll give them a container. They can add water, refill it when they need it. We'll actually cut down on a lot of packaging and waste that way. It never really caught on in the market for a variety of reasons, behavioral reasons. But this subscription model, where you sort of have a contingent customer base and you have their attention, is a great opportunity to start building in some of those honestly old ideas and really making them more powerful in the market today. So, in the same way that, people were talking about soap pouches and refillable containers 20 years ago, we now finally see that happening. Us at Helmm, we're trying to do that in the deodorant and personal care space.
Well, and the old ideas also include this notion that a business and its customers are together, that they're in the same community, that they share interests and so forth. And so with the subscription, you're bringing back this dialogue that just doesn't exist with major brands.
Correct. And to be quite frank, if you look across the landscape and sort of the personal care industry, a lot of these big companies that you're used to buying products from, the sort of Procter and Gamble's, Unilevers of the world, they're looking towards fresh ideas, and fresh brands to start innovating. They realize that they've sort of lost that customer conversation. They've lost a lot of their innovation, and they're now really relying upon people like Helmm and a bunch of our peers to really innovate, drive change, drive conversations, and reconnect with the audience to give them things that they've wanted for a very long time.
So, and I heard you mention earlier that you're working on how to recycle the refill containers and so forth. So you're thinking continuing to extend your full life cycle relationship with the customer, and in doing so, what other opportunities do you see for Helmm besides, of course, Unilever coming along and acquiring it?
Well, we're focused right now on just building the brand that our customers love and continuing to build that. So beyond any of the big CPG companies, we don't think too much about them. We're really focused on growing our brand.
That's good. But I also guarantee you're going to hear from.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing is just continuing to try to innovate. Zach, maybe you have something to add.
Yeah. I think that in addition to ultimately a lot of this change is driven of course, by regulators and the government and different advocacy groups, but ultimately the end consumer sort of determines, unfortunately, what is produced into the marketplace, and that's something we've sort of cut onto as we've started to do this. I think through our experience talking to folks like you, through our experience building Helmm to what it is today, we've identified a lot of other industries that are ripe for some innovation, specifically when it comes to their use of plastic. So, as Taylor mentioned, we are very laser focused on building our current product line, building Helmm as a brand, but of course, looking at opportunities, as different industries start to, for example, ban plastic bottles that are under 12 ounces and stuff like that. So always looking out for new ways we can help innovate. I can say that we have several new products. Can't go into too much detail now, unfortunately, but several new products in the works that will hopefully contribute to our goal of reducing plastic, particularly when it comes to personal care products.
And maybe something to add, if I may, is you talked about that closing the life cycle of your product line. And we mentioned that a couple of times. I think it's actually one of the, regions of the consumer package industry, product industry, that needs a lot of work. No one really has a good answer to this yet, for a couple of reasons. The first is that it's price prohibitive right now. It's very expensive actually to recollect a used piece of plastic, bring it back into your corporate center, and then run a recycling program.
Right.
For a variety of reasons. I mean, all the Chinese, tariffs and whatnot, and the refusal to accept plastic, it's driving a bunch of different pricing changes in the recyclability of that sort of stuff and the economics. But I think the biggest thing, which, Zach and I are spending a lot of time thinking about, and I don't think anyone has a great solution to this yet, but is how do you incentivize customers to actually buy into that full life cycle system? We
agree with you. That is a critical point, and it also comes back to how do people start to see some economic benefit of their recycling. It's just now it's sort of tacked onto our garbage collection.
Right. And the other side of that is it's not only the economic side, I guess, but if you look back even into the sort of, late 90s, early 2000s, people tried this with printer cartridges. They really tried companies to bring back printer cartridges into a full life cycle paradigm and struggled to do that. Not necessarily, they had the money to support it. It was really the consumer behavior, that decision to say, okay, I'm done with this, but instead of throwing it in the trash can, I'm actually going to set it aside.
Yeah. And
then I'm going to go through the process of returning it. So, that's something Zach and I are very focused on at Helmm, is how can we innovate in issues like that haven't had good solutions for a very long time.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing what you do with that. Let me thank you both again for joining us today. So we were talking to Zach Groffsky and Taylor Lane, the co-founders of Helmm. Helmm is spelled Helmm, and they're at helmm.com. I urge you to take a look at it. And if you're looking for a new antiperspirant or deodorant, check it out. I'm a happy new customer. Thanks, gentlemen. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks for having us, Mitch. It was a pleasure.
And so, folks, we'll be back with another Sustainability in Your Ear Innovator interview soon. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe. This is Earth911. Have a great day.